Think. When I first tasted failure, I thought it was the end. It felt like the world had closed its doors on me. Think. I applied for jobs and was rejected, sometimes immediately, sometimes silently. I started projects that nobody believed in. Think. I stood in rooms where people looked through me like I didn't matter. I failed in school, failed in business, think, and failed in ways that made me question whether I had any worth at all. But I didn't give up, not because I was brave, think, not because I was special, but because I had no other option. When failure is all you know, you either surrender to it or learn to rise with it. Think, and I chose to rise. You see, failure isn't a moment, it's a process. It's not the fall that defeats you, it's staying on the ground. Think. When I failed, I didn't suddenly wake up with confidence. I woke up with self-doubt. Think. But I also woke up with a reason to prove something to myself, not the world. I had to become my own supporter, my own teacher, think, my own source of strength. No one else was going to carry me forward. So I stopped asking for sympathy and started asking for discipline. Think. I stopped trying to impress people and started working on becoming a person I could respect. I learned to laugh at my rejection letters. Think. I learned to study the mistakes I made instead of burying them. Think. I looked around and saw that every successful person had once been in a situation like mine, but they had kept going. That became my motivation. Think, if others could fail 10 times and succeed on the 11th, why couldn't I? Think. If someone else's idea could be laughed at and later become legendary, why couldn't mine? Think. I trained myself to embrace the pain, not enjoy it but accept it. Because pain was proof that I was trying. Think. Pain was a teacher that made me smarter, tougher, and more real. I started small, very small. When no one trusted me with big things, think. I took the small chances and gave them everything I had. I told myself, if I can't succeed at something small, think, I don't deserve anything big. And that attitude changed my life. I didn't wait for perfect conditions. I used what I had. Think, I didn't wait for motivation. I created habits. I didn't wait for validation. I gave myself permission to fail forward. Slowly, things began to change. Not overnight, but brick by brick. One success led to another. One kind word gave me hope. Think. One opportunity turned into 10. I found people who believed in me because I had first learned to believe in myself. That's the secret. Think. Not talent, not luck, not money, belief. Belief that your failures don't define your future unless you let them. Think. Belief that every time life knocks you down, it's not trying to defeat you. It's testing how badly you want to get back up. Think. There were still days I wanted to quit. Still moments I thought maybe I wasn't cut out for this. Think. But I reminded myself of all the times I had fallen and stood back up. I reminded myself that fear is temporary, but regret can last forever. So I kept going. And somewhere along the way, my failures became fuel. My mistakes became blueprints. My doubts turned into discipline. I stopped fearing failure and started welcoming the lessons it brought. If you're facing failure now, don't run from it. Think, don't hide your scars. Wear them, learn from them. Because failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of it. Think. It's the fire that forges resilience. It's the silence that helps you hear your inner voice. It's the wall that forces you to grow wings. Think. You may not see the result now, but every setback you endure is preparing you for something greater. Don't wait for someone to lift you up. Stand on your own. Don't wait for the perfect plan. Start with what you have. Don't wait until you feel confident. Think. Start while you're scared, because the only thing worse than failing is never trying. And when you look back one day, you won't remember the pain of failure. You'll remember how you turned it into power. Think. Failure is not the end, but a necessary process for growth. This is a truth that many people struggle to accept, because when failure strikes, it feels final. It feels like a door slamming shut in your face, a declaration that you're not good enough, not smart enough, think, not worthy enough. But that feeling is not the truth. The truth is that failure is simply a stage, a part of the journey that refines. redirects, and strengthens you. It's not a punishment, it's a preparation. The moment you shift your perspective on failure, think, everything changes. You stop running from it and start learning from it. You stop hiding it and start using it. Think, you stop treating it like a death sentence and start seeing it as a training ground for something greater. Think, the world often teaches us to fear failure. From the time we are young, we are rewarded for being right and punished for being wrong. Think, we grow up thinking that mistakes mean we're weak or unintelligent. We try to avoid embarrassment, protect our ego, think, and stay in our comfort zones. But growth doesn't live in comfort. Growth lives in discomfort. Think, growth lives in the place where you don't have all the answers, where your pride gets bruised. Think, where you fall and have to decide whether or not to get back up. That's where real strength is born. Think, failure forces you to confront your limits, and in doing so, it helps you discover your potential. Think about any skill you've ever mastered: reading, writing, riding a bicycle, speaking a language, or learning a sport. Think, none of these things came easily the first time. You fell, you stumbled, you got things wrong, you might have been frustrated, embarrassed, think, or tempted to quit, but you kept going. You failed, learned, adjusted, and improved. That's how progress happens. Think, failure is not a sign to stop, it's a sign to adapt. It's the feedback you need to get better. Without failure, you wouldn't know what works and what doesn't. You wouldn't be pushed to innovate or to dig deeper. Think, you wouldn't be challenged to grow into the kind of person who can truly handle success. Success without failure is often fragile. It's success that hasn't been tested. When things go well from the beginning, we don't develop the muscles of resilience, patience, think, or perseverance. We become overconfident or complacent. And the moment something goes wrong, we don't know how to handle it. Think, but when success is built on a foundation of failure, it's strong, it's earned, it's real. Think, it can endure setbacks because it was born out of them. That's why failure is not the opposite of success. It's the path to it. Think, you can't climb a mountain without slipping. You can't build character without adversity. Think, and you can't achieve lasting growth without facing the things that scare you. Every failure carries a lesson. Think, but only if you're willing to see it. Most people are so focused on the pain of failure that they never pause to reflect. They blame others, make excuses, or shut down. But if you can take a step back and ask yourself, what is this trying to teach me? You will find clarity. Think, maybe it's teaching you that your strategy was wrong. Maybe it's showing you that you didn't prepare enough. Think. Maybe it's telling you that your mindset needs to change. Think. Or maybe it's guiding you away from something that wasn't meant for you and towards something that is. Failure is rarely meaningless. Think, it is almost always a message. But the message is wasted if you ignore it. Think. One of the most powerful realizations you can have is that failure does not define you. It's something you experience, not something you are. Think. Too often people internalize their failures and make them personal. Think, I failed, becomes, I am a failure. That mindset is dangerous because it traps you in a cycle of shame and self-doubt. Think, but if you can separate the event from your identity, you free yourself to grow. Think, you understand that failing at something doesn't mean you're worthless, it means you're human. And being human means being imperfect. Think, being vulnerable and being capable of change. When you embrace this, you stop being afraid to try. You stop being afraid to risk. Think, and when you stop fearing failure, you become unstoppable. Failure also builds empathy. When you've gone through hardship, think, you understand what it feels like to struggle. You become more compassionate, more grounded, more connected to others. Think, that emotional depth makes you a better leader, a better friend, a better person. People who have never failed often lack that depth. Think, they may be successful on the surface, but inside they're brittle. They don't know how to handle loss, how to recover from setbacks. Think, how to relate to people in pain. But when you've walked through the fire and come out the other side, you carry a quiet strength. Think, a strength that can't be taught in books or seminars. A strength that only failure can give you. Think, there will be times when failure feels overwhelming, when it shakes your confidence and clouds your vision. In those moments, think, it's important to remember that you're not alone. Every successful person you admire has failed. Every business, invention, or idea that changed the world came with a string of failures before it succeeded. The difference between those who make it and those who don't isn't that they failed less, it's that they refused to stop. Think. They saw failure as part of the journey, not the end of it. They kept moving forward even when it was hard. They kept believing, even when no one else did. And eventually their perseverance paid off. Sometimes failure is a gift in disguise. It removes illusions. It reveals your true character. It forces you to reevaluate your priorities. There are people who have failed in one area only to discover a new passion, a new purpose. A new path that was far better than what they originally planned. Life has a way of redirecting you. But you can only see the beauty of the detour if you keep walking. If you give up too soon, you'll never know what was waiting for you just around the corner. Failure tests your patience, your commitment, your resilience, but it also builds your future. You don't have to enjoy failing. You don't have to pretend it doesn't hurt. But you do have to understand its value. Every failure adds something to your story. Every setback adds another layer to your experience. Over time, those layers become wisdom. And that wisdom becomes your advantage. While others fear taking risks, you know how to navigate uncertainty. While others crumble under pressure, you've already learned how to rebuild. That's the quiet confidence failure gives you. The kind that can't be shaken because it was forged in fire. If you're facing failure today, don't despair. Don't think that this is the end. Think of it as a beginning. A beginning of a new version of you. One that is wiser, stronger, more focused, more determined. Trust the process even when it's painful. Trust yourself even when you doubt. The road may be longer than you expected, but that doesn't mean you're on the wrong path. It just means the destination is worth more than you imagined. Keep going. Learn everything you can. Let failure humble you. But never let it stop you. Because every time you rise after falling, you prove that failure was never the end. It was the reason you grew. Self-belief and discipline are more powerful than external validation. That truth may sound simple, but it carries a depth that most people overlook until life forces them to confront it. We grow up in a world that constantly measures our worth through grades, job titles, likes, followers, applause, and approval. From an early age, we learn to crave validation from parents, teachers, peers, bosses, even strangers. We begin to tie our confidence to the words and opinions of others. When they praise us, we feel proud. When they ignore us, we feel invisible. When they criticize us, we shrink. And slowly, without even realizing it, our sense of worth becomes fragile, built on shifting sand instead of solid rock. But there comes a moment sooner or later, when you will be alone with your efforts, when there will be no cheering crowd, no clapping hands, no congratulatory messages. That's when you'll learn who you really are. That's when you'll discover whether your drive comes from within or is entirely dependent on external approval. And that moment is not a punishment, it's a gift. Because it gives you the opportunity to build something real, unshakable self-belief. When you stop waiting for the world to tell you that you're enough and start telling yourself, everything changes. You no longer move through life like a beggar looking for approval. You move like a creator designing your future on your terms. Self-belief doesn't mean arrogance. It doesn't mean thinking you're better than others. It means you trust yourself. You trust your ability to grow, to improve, to learn, to endure. You believe that even if you fail today, you can succeed tomorrow. That even if no one else understands your vision, it's still valid. That even when the noise outside is loud, your inner voice matters more. Think. That kind of belief is powerful because it cannot be taken away. Praise can be withdrawn. Recognition can fade. Opportunities can be delayed. Think. But the belief you have in yourself, when it's real, is a fire that keeps burning even in darkness. Think. And this fire of self-belief cannot burn bright without discipline. Discipline is the fuel that keeps you going when motivation disappears. Think. Motivation is a feeling. It comes and goes. But discipline is a choice. It's the choice to show up even when you don't feel like it. Think. It's the decision to keep working on your craft even when the results are slow. It's the inner contract you sign with yourself that says, think, I will do what needs to be done regardless of how I feel. That mindset is rare, but it is the cornerstone of success. Think. Because life will not always inspire you. Life will not always encourage you. There will be days of doubt, fatigue, boredom, frustration. Think, and if you only act when you feel great, you won't get very far. But if you act consistently, regardless of mood, think, regardless of circumstances, you become unstoppable. When you combine self-belief with discipline, you become your own engine. You stop needing people to push you. You stop waiting for perfect conditions. You begin to create momentum through sheer will. And over time, think, that momentum builds into mastery. People may not notice in the beginning. They might overlook you, underestimate you, even mock you. But that's okay. You're not doing it for them. You're doing it for you. Think, because you understand that success is not an event. It's a habit, a pattern, a lifestyle. Think, and it's built day by day through effort that nobody sees. There are so many talented people in the world who never succeed. Think, not because they lack ability, but because they lack belief. They talk themselves out of opportunities. Think, they wait for someone else to validate them before they move. They let fear of judgment silence their voice. And in doing so, think, they never discover what they're truly capable of. But then there are others, not necessarily more gifted, think, who rise to the top because they refuse to quit. They believe in their ability to improve. They believe in the value of their vision. Think, they believe that their work matters. And they discipline themselves to act on that belief again and again, even when it's hard. You have to be willing to look foolish in the beginning. You have to be willing to fail in front of others, to try things that may not work. Think, to face rejection, silence, even ridicule. That's part of the process. But what matters is what you say to yourself when that happens. Do you shrink and give up? Or do you stand tall and keep going? The voice you use inside your head is the most powerful tool you have. Think, if you keep feeding it with doubt, you will sabotage yourself before the world even gets a chance to. Think. But if you feed it with belief, rooted not in delusion but in your willingness to work, you'll grow stronger with every challenge. Think. There will be times when people won't understand your ambition. Times when your ideas will seem too big or too different. Think. Times when the results will be so small that others will think you're wasting your time. But this is when discipline matters most. Think. Discipline is what keeps you moving forward when the applause stops. Discipline is what keeps you learning when success is slow. Think. Discipline is what builds your confidence, not just in theory, but in action. The more you honor your commitments to yourself, think, the more trust you build with yourself, and that trust becomes unbreakable. The world may reward you for what it sees, think, but it will only see what you consistently show. If you don't believe in your message, no one else will. If you don't trust your work ethic, think, no one else will. People can sense conviction. They can sense confidence. Think. They can sense whether you're driven by a desire to prove something to others or a passion to fulfill something within yourself. Think. And that's why internal belief matters so much more than external validation. Because when you do it for yourself, your focus becomes sharper. Think. Your decisions become clearer. Your resilience becomes deeper. You stop chasing trends and start creating value. Think. There will be moments when you feel behind, when you see others succeeding faster and wonder if you're on the wrong path. Think. Don't let comparison steal your belief. Everyone's timing is different. Everyone's journey is unique. You don't need to rush. Think. You don't need to compete, you just need to stay consistent. You need to wake up every day and remind yourself why you started. Think. And even if the progress is invisible, you keep going. Because the truth is, every effort counts. Every hour you invest, think. Every failure you endure, every lesson you learn, it all adds up. And one day when the results finally show, people will call you lucky. Think. But you'll know it wasn't luck. It was belief and discipline. If you're waiting for someone to give you permission to chase your dream, stop waiting. Give yourself permission. If you're waiting for someone to tell you that you're good enough, think. Look in the mirror and say it to yourself. If you're waiting for the perfect time, understand that there will never be one. Think. Now is all you have. And now is enough. You are enough. Not because you have all the answers, but because you're willing to find them. Think. Not because you're flawless, but because you're courageous enough to try. Your journey is yours to walk. There will be people who doubt you. Think, and that's okay. Don't waste energy trying to convince them. Convince yourself. Prove to yourself that you can show up every day. Think. That you can improve every day, that you can build something meaningful even when no one is watching. Because eventually they will watch. They will see the results. They will see the growth. And they will ask how you did it. And you'll know it wasn't magic. It wasn't luck. Think. It was belief. It was discipline. It was the quiet decision you made every single day to keep going no matter what. Think, start small, and give your best even when opportunities are limited. This mindset may not sound glamorous, but it holds the power to transform your life. People often wait for the big break, the perfect timing, the ideal conditions, and while they wait, time slips by. Dreams remain dreams, potential goes untapped, and frustration builds. But the truth is, greatness rarely starts with grandeur. It starts in small rooms, in quiet efforts, in overlooked tasks. It begins when no one is watching. Think, when the rewards are invisible and the path is uncertain. Yet, it's in these humble beginnings that the strongest foundations are built. Think. The world is full of people with ambition, but not everyone has the patience and humility to start small. Think. They want the spotlight without the stage work. They want the outcome without the process. Think. But those who rise steadily understand that success is not a leap, it's a climb. Each step matters. Each repetition, each small decision, think, each act of discipline adds up. You don't need a perfect environment to grow. You just need to begin. Think. You don't need applause to be excellent. You just need to commit. Think. Excellence is not something you switch on when the stakes are high. It's something you practice daily, especially when the stakes feel low. Think of a seed. It holds enormous potential. An entire tree, perhaps an entire forest. But it begins buried in dirt, invisible to the world. Think. It requires water, sunlight, patience, and time. You cannot force it to grow overnight. You cannot demand instant results. Think. The same goes for your growth. You may feel buried. You may feel like no one sees your effort. Think. You may feel stuck in a place that seems far from your goals. But if you nurture that small beginning with consistency and heart, think, growth is inevitable. And when the roots are deep, the tree can withstand any storm. Often, think, people ignore small opportunities because they don't look like the big break they imagined. Think. But what they miss is that how you treat small opportunities determines whether you'll be trusted with bigger ones. Think. If you dismiss the little tasks, if you only give your best when you think it matters, you miss the chance to develop the character, skills, think, and discipline that future success demands. Think. The person who becomes great is not the one who waits for the stage, but the one who brings greatness into every corner of their current space. Think. They show up on time, they work with integrity, they take pride in details. Think. They give their best not because someone's watching, but because that's who they are. Think. Some of the most successful journeys began with limited resources, no capital, no connections, no grand audience. Think. Just a vision and a relentless work ethic. It's easy to admire the results. Think. But the real story is written in the early chapters. The late nights, the silent struggles, the lonely choices, the moments of doubt. Think. These are the moments that test your commitment. Anyone can be excited when everything is going well. Think. But can you stay consistent when progress is slow? Can you keep learning when results aren't visible? Think. Can you keep going when the world offers you no confirmation? That's where strength is born. Think. Starting small also teaches you things that big platforms can't. It teaches humility. It teaches you to find joy in the process. Think, not just the outcome. It teaches you how to solve problems with limited resources, how to adapt, how to build resilience. Think. It forces you to be resourceful, to stretch your thinking, to make the most of what you have. These are skills that will serve you forever. Think. Because if you can thrive in scarcity, you'll be unstoppable in abundance. If you can lead when no one's following, think. You'll be ready when the crowd shows up. You don't need a massive stage to deliver excellence. Think. You need a commitment to treat every step like it matters. If you're an artist, draw even if no one sees your work. If you're a writer, think. Write even if no one reads. If you're an entrepreneur, serve your first client with the same care as your thousandth. Think. If you're in a job that feels small, do it with pride and diligence. The habits you build now will follow you into every future role. Think. The character you develop now will determine how you handle success later. The lessons you learn now will shape the wisdom you carry forward. Think. Many people think they need more to begin. More money, more time, more support. But the real question is, think. What are you doing with what you already have? If you can't be trusted with little, how can you be trusted with more? Think. Waiting for perfect conditions is a trap. There will always be challenges, distractions, excuses. But progress belongs to those who move anyway. Who take the first step even when the path is unclear? Who trust the process even when the results are slow? You don't need a big start. Think. You need a brave one. What you do with limited opportunities says more about your future than what you plan to do with unlimited ones. Think. Because your habits, mindset, and effort don't suddenly change when the situation improves. They're forged in your current reality. Think. So if you're in a place that feels small, don't waste it. Own it. Master it. Use it as a training ground. Give it your all. Think. Not because the situation demands it, but because you demand it of yourself. That mindset transforms your present into preparation. Think. It turns every small act into a brick in the foundation of your success. Consistency in the small things creates trust. People begin to notice. Think. Doors begin to open. Not because you shouted, but because your quiet excellence spoke louder than words. In a world obsessed with shortcuts, think. Your steady climb will stand out. In a culture chasing overnight success, your grounded growth will be rare. Think. And that rarity will become your strength. It's not the loudest who win. It's the most disciplined, the most persistent, the most prepared. And preparation is something you control, even when opportunities are few. You may not be able to control how many chances come your way. Think. But you can control how ready you are for them. You can control your attitude, your work ethic, your focus. Every time you give your best, think you're making a deposit into your future. And one day, think, that account will pay off, not because you wished for it, but because you worked for it. And the world will call you lucky. Think, not knowing how many days you spent perfecting your craft in obscurity, how many nights you spent choosing effort over excuses. Think. How many moments you resisted the urge to quit. There is power in doing small things with great energy. Think. There is power in treating limited opportunities with unlimited effort. Because that effort shapes your identity. Think. It reminds you that success isn't something you stumble into, it's something you build. One step at a time. One action at a time. Think, even if it feels like no one sees, even if the progress is slow, even if the rewards are distant. Every time you show up with excellence, think, you're telling the world and yourself that you're ready. If you're in a season of small beginnings, don't despise it. Think, don't underestimate it. Use it. Build your discipline. Build your focus. Build your foundation. Because when the big opportunity comes, think, it won't be a surprise, it'll be a continuation. A continuation of the effort you've already invested. Think, the habits you've already formed, the strength you've already built. And you'll step into it not as someone lucky, think, but as someone prepared. Think, someone who knew from the very beginning that how you treat the small things determines how you'll handle the big ones. Think, someone who knew that it was never about waiting for the world to recognize your worth. It was about showing your worth in everything you do. Think, embrace pain and rejection as essential teachers. It's a lesson most people try to avoid because pain hurts and rejection stings. Think, it's far easier to chase comfort, to seek safety, to hide behind fear of failure. Think. But the uncomfortable truth is that growth rarely happens in the absence of struggle. Every breakthrough in life, think, every moment of transformation, every chapter of progress is almost always preceded by a season of pain. Think, pain has a way of stripping us down to the core, exposing our weaknesses, revealing our truth, and demanding that we evolve. Think. It doesn't feel like a gift in the moment, but in hindsight, it often becomes the very reason we rise higher than we ever thought possible. Think. Rejection is no different. It's a powerful force that either drives people to give up or pushes them to become more. Think. To be rejected is to be told that you're not good enough, yet that you don't fit in, yet that you're not ready, yet. Think. But in those moments, it's not the external voice that matters most, it's the internal one. What do you say to yourself after rejection? Think, do you let it define you or do you let it develop you? Most people think rejection is the world closing a door. Think, but sometimes it's the world redirecting you to something better. Sometimes it's not personal, it's preparation. You didn't fail. You're being refined. You didn't lose. You're being aligned. Think. The people who accomplish great things in life are not those who never experienced pain or rejection. Think. They are the ones who refused to let it stop them. They used pain as fuel. They turned rejection into redirection. Think. They allowed every closed door to strengthen their resolve instead of weaken their will. They didn't ask, think, why is this happening to me? They asked, what is this trying to teach me? That mindset shift is everything. Because when you see pain and rejection as teachers, you stop fearing them. You start welcoming their lessons. Think. You start understanding that without them, there's no depth, no character, no resilience. Pain teaches you what matters. Think. It clears away the noise. It makes you confront your priorities, your beliefs, your habits. When everything is going well, think. It's easy to get lazy, to grow complacent, to ignore the flaws in your foundation. But when pain hits, it shines a spotlight on everything. Think. It shows you what's real. It strips away the surface and demands that you deal with the root. And in doing so, it builds something unshakable within you. A strength that doesn't depend on circumstances. A calm that doesn't depend on comfort. Think. A fire that doesn't go out when the winds of life blow strong. Rejection teaches you humility. Think. It reminds you that you're not entitled to success just because you want it. That desire alone is not enough. You need preparation. Think. You need patience. You need perseverance. Every no you receive builds a kind of grit that success alone can't teach. Think. It trains you to handle the storms, to weather disappointment, to keep showing up when everything in you wants to walk away. Think. And it also teaches you empathy. When you've been rejected, you understand what it feels like to be overlooked, to be underestimated. Think. That understanding makes you kinder. It makes you wiser. It makes you a better leader, a better friend, a better human. Think. There's a deceptive narrative in society that says pain and rejection are signs of failure. That if you're struggling, think, you must be doing something wrong. But the opposite is often true. If you're feeling pain, it means you're pushing yourself. If you're being rejected, it means you're trying. The only people who don't face pain or rejection are those who never step outside their comfort zone. Think, they don't fail, but they don't grow either. They stay safe, but they stay small. Growth requires risk. Think. And risk means sometimes you'll fall. Sometimes you'll hurt. Sometimes you'll hear, no, more times than you can count. Think. But each of those moments is shaping you into someone who can handle the yes when it finally comes. Think. The people who endure pain without giving up are the ones who become strong enough to carry the weight of their dreams. Success is heavy. Think, it demands endurance. It requires responsibility. And pain is what prepares you for that. It teaches you how to keep going when you're tired. Think, how to stay focused when you're distracted, how to trust yourself when everything seems uncertain. You can't fake that kind of strength. Think, you can't shortcut your way to that kind of resilience. It's earned. And it's earned through experience, through sweat, through tears. Think. Through standing back up every time life knocks you down. Most people want the reward without the resistance. They want the breakthrough without the breaking. But it doesn't work that way. Pain is the gym of the soul. It stretches you. It tears your old limits. It builds new capacity. And if you're willing to go through it, you'll come out stronger than you've ever been. Not just physically or mentally, but emotionally, spiritually. You'll have a kind of depth that only comes from experience. Think. You'll speak with a voice that carries weight, not because you read it in a book, but because you lived it. And people will feel that. Think. They'll trust it. They'll follow it. Rejection also sharpens your focus. It forces you to get clear about what you really want. Sometimes we pursue things that look good on paper, but don't align with who we truly are. Rejection filters those things out. Think. It helps you find your lane. It helps you stop chasing what's popular and start pursuing what's purposeful. Think. It eliminates the distractions and clarifies your path. And yes, it hurts, but that hurt is not in vain. It's shaping your story. It's guiding your growth. It's making you stronger than you were before. Pain and rejection are not signs that you're on the wrong path. Think. Often, they're signs that you're right where you need to be. That you're stepping into your next level. Think. That you're being tested to see how badly you want it. Will you keep going when it's hard? Will you keep believing when it's lonely? Will you keep showing up when nothing seems to be working? Those questions can only be answered through action. Through persistence. Think. Through a decision to keep moving forward no matter what. You don't need to enjoy pain or rejection. Think. You don't need to pretend it doesn't hurt. But you do need to respect it, to recognize its value, to see it not as an enemy but as an ally. Think. Because if you let it, pain will teach you more than comfort ever could. Rejection will reveal more than success ever will. Think. And the more you learn from them, the more prepared you'll be for the opportunities ahead. Think. Not just prepared to receive them, but prepared to sustain them. Because that's what true success is. Not a moment of glory, think, but a life of meaning, a life of impact, a life of purpose built on a foundation that pain and rejection helped you lay brick by brick. Think. Every time you get back up after falling, you gain something, you gain wisdom, you gain toughness, you gain self-respect. Think. That's the kind of wealth no one can take from you. That's the kind of strength that makes you unshakable. Think. People might see your success and envy it, but they won't see the pain behind it, the rejections, the tears. Think. The moments you doubted everything, and that's okay, because you'll know. You'll carry that journey with pride. Think. You'll remember that nothing came easy, but everything was worth it. So if you're going through pain, hold on. If you're facing rejection, Keep going. The pain you feel today is shaping the person you're becoming tomorrow. The rejections you receive today are setting you up for the right opportunities down the road. Don't run from the hard parts. Lean into them. Think. Let them teach you. Let them mold you. Let them make you better. Because when you look back, think, you'll realize that those were not the worst moments of your journey. They were the most important ones. The ones that gave you depth. Think. The ones that gave you drive. The ones that gave you the kind of strength that can't be taught, only earned. Think. Build resilience through consistent effort and learning from mistakes. Think. Resilience isn't something you're born with. It's something you build. And it's not built in a moment, it's built over time. Think. One effort after another. One failure after another. One lesson after another. Most people wait for things to get easier. But the truth is, think, the path doesn't get easier, you get stronger. The difference between someone who quits and someone who succeeds isn't just talent or luck. Think. It's often resilience. It's the capacity to keep going when others have stopped, to try again when things don't work out. Think. To learn instead of crumble when faced with difficulty. Resilience is the bridge between a setback and a comeback. Think. And it's built by showing up day after day, regardless of how you feel. There is no shortcut to resilience. You cannot read about it, think, wish for it, or talk it into existence. You have to live it. You have to face challenges head on and refuse to let them break you. Think. Every time you fail and choose to get back up, you become stronger. Every time you face disappointment and keep pushing forward, think. Your resolve deepens. Every time you fall short but continue to work on your craft, your endurance grows. That is the secret people don't see. Think. They see the results and assume it was smooth sailing. Think. But behind every resilient person is a trail of setbacks they turned into stepping stones. The foundation of that strength is consistent effort. The decision to keep going when no one is clapping. To keep practicing when no one is watching. Think. To keep building even when progress feels invisible. Mistakes are part of the process. You can't avoid them, and you shouldn't want to. Think. Mistakes are your greatest teachers. They show you what doesn't work so you can figure out what does. They reveal your blind spots. Think. Your weaknesses and your areas for growth. But only if you're willing to face them. Some people make mistakes and immediately shut down. Think. They take it personally. They feel ashamed. They begin to doubt themselves. But the people who grow are the ones who treat mistakes as feedback. Think, not failure. They analyze, adjust, and try again. They don't see mistakes as a reflection of their identity, but as an essential part of their education. Every mistake brings you one step closer to mastery, but only if you keep going. Think. The effort you put in every day, even when it seems to go unnoticed, is never wasted. It may not produce immediate results. Think. But it builds habits. It builds focus. It builds resilience. And over time, that invisible work becomes visible success. Think. You become someone who doesn't just talk about goals, you live them. You act on them. You grow through them. That kind of effort compounds. Think. 1 hour of practice doesn't change much. But 1,000 hours of dedicated, focused practice changes everything. That's how champions are made, not in one moment, but in many small ones. The quiet grind, the repeated effort, the willingness to fail, learn, and try again. People often think resilience means being tough all the time, never showing weakness, never feeling doubt. Think. But true resilience is not about pretending to be invincible. It's about knowing you're not and still choosing to move forward. Think. It's about having moments of fear, frustration, even failure, and still coming back stronger. Think. Resilience means acknowledging the struggle but not surrendering to it. It means letting adversity shape you but not define you. Think. It means feeling like giving up but deciding not to. And that decision, the one to keep going despite the pain, is where real growth begins. Think. Effort is a decision you make daily. Some days it's easy. You feel motivated, energized, confident. But other days, think. It feels like you're dragging yourself through mud. Progress is slow, your energy is low. Think, and the voice in your head whispers that maybe it's not worth it. Those are the days that matter most. Think, because anyone can work hard when they feel good. But the ones who succeed are those who show up even when they don't. Think, those who don't let their emotions dictate their effort. Think, those who have made a commitment to themselves that isn't dependent on circumstances. That kind of consistency creates power. Think, it builds a mental toughness that lasts. You're going to mess up. You're going to make wrong decisions. You're going to fail at times. Think, but none of that has to define your story unless you let it. What matters more is what you do after the failure. Do you give up, think, or do you get curious? Do you blame others or do you take responsibility? Do you repeat the same mistake or do you study it, understand it, think, and improve? That reflection is where growth lives. Every successful person has a trail of failures behind them. Think, they just refused to let those failures be the end. They learned, they adjusted, they kept going. And you can too. Think, consistency doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean you never miss a step or have a bad day. It means you always come back. Think, you always return to the path. You don't allow one bad moment to ruin the whole journey. Think, resilient people don't avoid pain. They outlast it. They don't avoid obstacles. They overcome them. Think, and they do it by committing to the process, not just the outcome. When you focus only on the outcome, every setback feels like a defeat. Think, but when you focus on the process, every effort feels like progress. You begin to trust the work. You begin to trust yourself. Think, and that trust is what keeps you moving. Learning from mistakes also means being honest with yourself. It means asking the hard questions. Why did this happen? What could I have done differently? What belief or behavior needs to change? Think. This kind of reflection isn't always comfortable. It forces you to confront your ego, your blind spots, your flaws. Think. But that confrontation is necessary. It's how you evolve. Think. It's how you become the kind of person who can achieve your goals, not just in theory, but in reality. Think. Growth doesn't come from avoiding hard truths. It comes from facing them, owning them, and doing the work to change. Think. There will be seasons where it feels like nothing is working. You're putting in the effort, making the adjustments, think, and still not seeing the results you want. That's when most people quit. Think. But the ones who keep going understand that growth doesn't always happen in straight lines. Sometimes you plateau. Sometimes progress hides. Sometimes you're growing in ways you can't measure yet. And if you quit too soon, you'll never know how close you were. Think. You'll never know what was waiting just beyond that struggle. That's why resilience matters. It's what carries you through the silence. Think. Through the uncertainty, through the dry seasons. Eventually, things start to shift. The work begins to show. The effort begins to pay off. Think. But by then, something deeper has changed. You've become someone different. Someone stronger, wiser, more capable. Think. Someone who knows how to face failure without breaking. Someone who trusts their ability to figure things out. Think. Someone who has earned their confidence through experience. That transformation is the real reward. Not just the external success, think, but the internal strength. The kind of strength that stays with you for life. Think. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about always rising. Think. It's about using your effort and your mistakes to build something that lasts. Something that can withstand pressure, doubt, and difficulty. Think. When you realize that, you stop fearing failure. You stop waiting for easy. You embrace the process. You show up, you keep going. Think. And in doing so, you become the kind of person who doesn't just chase success, you attract it. Think. Because you've already become the version of yourself who's ready for it. The version that's been tested. Think. The version that's been refined. The version that's earned every step forward through resilience, effort, and growth. Think. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Begin with courage and persistence. Most people delay their dreams, their goals, their progress. Think. Because they are waiting for the right time, the right tools, the right mood, the right confidence. Think, they believe that success starts when everything around them aligns, when life gives them a green light. But the truth is, think, that moment rarely ever comes. The conditions are rarely perfect. Life doesn't pause and make room for you to chase your goals. Think, you have to begin where you are with what you have, and often with fear still in your chest. The people who succeed are not the ones who waited until they were ready. They're the ones who started even when they weren't. Think, even when they had doubts, even when they had limited resources, even when their chances looked small, they moved forward with courage. Think, and they kept going with persistence. Courage isn't the absence of fear, it's taking action in spite of fear. When you feel scared, think, uncertain, overwhelmed, that's not a sign to stop. That's a sign you're stretching. Think. It's a signal that you're moving beyond your comfort zone, and that's exactly where growth lies. Think. If you wait until the fear goes away before you start, you'll be waiting forever. Think. Fear doesn't leave before action. It fades through action. The more you do, the more you prove to yourself that you can. Think. The more you prove to yourself that fear is just a feeling, not a fact, and every small act of courage builds confidence. Not all at once, think, but layer by layer. You don't need to leap. Just take the first step. Just begin. That's how change starts. Not with a grand plan, think, but with a decision to begin despite the noise in your head. Persistence is what keeps you going when motivation fades. It's what drives you on the days when it feels like your efforts aren't making a difference. Think, the world is full of talented people who gave up too soon. People who had ideas, vision, skill, but didn't have the grit to keep going through difficulty. Think, success isn't just about how good you are. It's about how long you're willing to stay in the fight. Think, it's about your ability to keep showing up, to keep pushing, to keep trying, even when progress is slow, even when no one's watching. Think, even when the results aren't visible yet. Persistence is the quiet, steady engine that outlasts distraction, discouragement, and delay. Think, it's the difference between wishing and achieving, between talking and doing, between almost and done. Think, starting imperfectly teaches you more than waiting for perfection ever will. You'll never feel 100% ready. Your plans will never be flawless. Think, there will always be something more you could learn, another strategy you could try, more money you could save. Think, but starting teaches you the realities you can't learn from a book or a video or someone else's story. It teaches you how to adapt. Think, it forces you to solve problems. It reveals your strengths and weaknesses. And most importantly, it puts momentum on your side. Think, because momentum doesn't come from thinking, it comes from doing. Once you start moving, the path becomes clearer. Think, you begin to see what works and what doesn't. You gain clarity, experience, and wisdom, not from waiting, but from walking forward. Think, it's easy to get caught in preparation mode, to plan, research, dream, and organize endlessly. But at some point, think, preparation becomes procrastination. You convince yourself that you're making progress, but really, think, you're avoiding the discomfort of beginning. Action is uncomfortable because it invites failure, embarrassment, and risk. Think, but it also invites progress, growth, and discovery. Think, the person who takes messy action will always beat the person who never leaves the starting line. Done is better than perfect. Think, forward is better than stuck. Beginning is better than waiting. Because when you begin even with fear and flaws, you become someone who takes control. Someone who builds instead of hesitates. Someone who lives with purpose instead of excuses. Think, courage is contagious. When you start, even when it's difficult, you inspire others. You give them permission to be imperfect, to be real, to chase their goals despite uncertainty. You become an example that others can follow. And more importantly, think, you give yourself permission to grow. Because the journey is never just about what you achieve. It's about who you become. Think. The act of beginning, of pushing through fear, of staying consistent even when it's hard, transforms you. It gives you resilience. It sharpens your mind, it builds emotional strength, and it teaches you to believe in yourself, not because you always succeed, but because you refuse to quit. Some of the most powerful success stories started with failure. They began with someone trying something they didn't fully understand, with limited tools, with little experience, and plenty of fear. But they didn't wait. They stepped forward. They made mistakes. They learned. And because they persisted, they grew. That's how success works. It rewards those who take action, not those who simply plan it. Even your smallest steps matter. Even when no one claps for you, even when the work is invisible, even when you feel alone in the effort, it all counts. It's all building you into someone capable, someone ready, someone strong enough to handle the success you're chasing. You won't always get it right. You'll make wrong turns. You'll invest in the wrong places. You'll trust the wrong people. You'll doubt yourself. But that's part of the process. Mistakes are not detours. They're part of the map. They refine you. They teach you things that success never could. And the sooner you start learning. The sooner you begin, the sooner you begin evolving. Don't rob yourself of that growth by waiting for things to be perfect. That version of you that you dream of becoming, they're on the other side of action. They are not waiting at the start line. They're forged in the middle of the race. Built through the pressure of real attempts and real lessons. Every great creation started as a messy first draft. Every expert began as a beginner. Every leader once felt like an imposter. They didn't wait for perfect. They moved with purpose. They learned as they went. They didn't know the whole path. They just took the next step. And that's what you need to do. Start with what you know. Act with what you have. Learn what you need along the way. Don't let the fear of not knowing enough stop you from starting. You'll never have all the answers. But you will develop the skills, the knowledge, the confidence through doing, not waiting. The world rewards people who take initiative, who raise their hand, who try. Even if they fall, even if they stumble. Because effort stands out, courage stands out, movement stands out. When you begin, doors open. Resources appear. People offer help. Not always right away, but eventually. Because the world supports those who support themselves. When you start moving, you attract energy, momentum, and opportunities that staying still could never give you. But none of that happens until you take the first step. So don't waste years waiting for the perfect mood, the perfect plan, the perfect confidence. It's okay to feel unsure. It's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to be a work in progress. Just begin anyway. That's the real act of courage. That's the real start of transformation. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to be willing to figure it out along the way. The people who win are not the ones who never had fear, but the ones who didn't let fear win. They showed up scared. They took action uncertain. They moved forward imperfect. And eventually they became unstoppable, not because the journey was smooth, but because they were persistent enough to finish it.